I watched my son reach into his pocket during his wedding rehearsal dinner, pull out my wedding ring, the one I'd worn for 32 years, and slide it onto his fiancée's finger while she laughed and said, "Now it's finally on the hand it was always meant for." The room went silent. Not the good kind of silent, the kind where everyone knows something terrible just happened but nobody wants to acknowledge it. My heart stopped. Literally stopped. I felt it freeze in my chest like water turning to ice, cracking and splintering into 1,000 pieces. Jessica, my future daughter-in-law, held up her hand to catch the chandelier light, admiring how my grandmother's diamonds sparkled against her French manicure. "It's perfect," she cooed, turning to my son Michael. "Your mom's taste wasn't completely terrible after all." I should have stood up. I should have said something. But I just sat there at table 7. Not the family table, not even table 2 or 3, but table 7 with Michael's college roommate's parents who I'd never met, watching my only child grin at the woman wearing my stolen ring. "Mom doesn't mind," Michael announced to the room, not even looking at me. "She said I could have it. Right, Mom?" I never said that. I never said anything close to that. My wedding ring had disappeared from my jewelry box 3 months ago, right after Michael had brought Jessica over for Sunday dinner. I'd searched everywhere, turned the house upside down, checked the bathroom drains, looked in coat pockets and between couch cushions. I'd even filed a police report, thinking maybe someone had broken in. The officer had been kind but clear. Without evidence of forced entry, there wasn't much they could do about a missing ring. Now I knew. Now I understood. Jessica caught my eye across the room and smiled. Not a friendly smile, but the kind a cat gives a mouse right before pouncing. She leaned into Michael and whispered something that made him laugh. Then she turned to Mrs. Chen, the mother of the bride's maid of honor, and said loud enough for half the room to hear, "Michael's mother had it in her jewelry box just collecting dust. Can you imagine? This ring deserves to be worn by someone who actually appreciates beautiful things." The room stayed quiet. Too quiet. That's when I knew. Everyone had been in on it. Everyone knew the ring was mine. Everyone knew it had been taken, and not a single person was going to say anything. My sister Linda reached across the table and squeezed my hand. Her fingers were cold, or maybe mine were. I couldn't tell anymore. Everything felt numb, distant, like I was watching this happen to someone else. Like I was floating somewhere near the ceiling, looking down at this woman in the burgundy dress. Was that me? Sitting perfectly still while her world collapsed. "Sarah," Linda whispered, "let's go. Let's just leave." But I couldn't move. My body wouldn't obey. I just stared at that ring on Jessica's finger, watching it catch the light every time she gestured, every time she laughed, every time she touched my son's arm with the hand that was wearing 32 years of my life. The ring my husband Tom had saved 6 months of paychecks to buy. The ring he'd proposed with on a cold November night in Portland, downtown by the waterfront, where the city lights reflected off the Willamette River like scattered diamonds. The ring I'd never taken off. Not once. Not even when I was washing dishes or gardening or painting the nursery soft yellow the week before Michael was born. The ring I'd still been wearing the day Tom's car hydroplaned on I-84 during that January rainstorm. The day the police officer stood on my doorstep, hat in hand, telling me there'd been an accident. The day my world ended the first time. I'd kept wearing it. Through the funeral, through the sleepless nights, through the years of raising Michael alone, through every parent-teacher conference, every baseball game, every birthday cake, every college application. That ring had been on my finger through all of it. A constant reminder that I'd been loved once, that I wasn't alone, that some part of Tom was still with me. And now, it was on her hand. "The ceremony starts at 2 tomorrow, Jessica announced, standing up with her wine glass raised. "But Sarah," she paused, turning to look directly at me. "Michael's mom, you'll want to arrive a bit early. We've arranged a special seat for you. Not at the family table, obviously. We need that for people who are actually important. But we found a spot for you in the back, near the bathrooms. I'm sure you'll be comfortable there." People laughed. They actually laughed. Michael didn't say anything. He just kept smiling at Jessica like she'd just told the funniest joke in the world. That's when I knew. This wasn't just about a ring. This was about erasing me. This was about replacing me. This was about taking everything I'd given, everything I'd sacrificed, everything I'd built, and pretending it never existed. This was about making sure everyone knew I was no longer welcome in my own son's life. My name is Sarah Mitchell, and I'm 54 years old. I live in a small 2-bedroom house in southeast Portland, Oregon. The same house where Tom and I raised Michael. The same house where I've lived for the past 28 years. Where the kitchen still has the yellow tiles Tom and I installed ourselves one weekend. Where Michael's growth chart is still marked on the doorframe to his old bedroom. Where every corner holds a memory I can't quite let go of. I work as a medical records clerk at Providence Portland Medical Center. It's not glamorous. I sit in a windowless office and organize patient files, making sure everything is properly coded and filed. But it's stable. It pays the bills. After Tom died, stability was all I could hope for. Tom had been an electrician, a good one, but there was no life insurance. We'd been meaning to get some, always meaning to, but when you're young, you think you have forever. And then forever runs out on a rainy Tuesday afternoon, on a highway outside the city, and you're left with a mortgage, a 7-year-old son, and no idea how to survive. I did survive, though. Barely. I picked up extra shifts at the hospital. I learned to fix the leaky faucet myself, to change the car oil, to patch the roof when it started leaking during winter storms. I learned to be both mother and father, to show up to every school event alone, to be enough for a boy who deserved so much more than just enough. Michael was everything. Every decision I made was for him. Every dollar I saved went into his college fund. Every sacrifice was worth it because he was going to have opportunities I never had. He was going to have a better life. He was a good kid. Quiet, studious, thoughtful. He loved building things with his hands like his father had. Lego sets, model airplanes, eventually robotics in high school. He got a full scholarship to Oregon State University for engineering. I cried the day that acceptance letter arrived, standing in the kitchen with the envelope in my hands, wishing Tom could have seen it. Michael graduated with honors 3 years ago. He got a job at Intel, moved into an apartment in Hillsboro, started making the kind of money I'd never dreamed of. He'd call every Sunday, come over for dinner every few weeks. We weren't best friends. What grown man is best friends with his mother? But we were close, or so I thought. Then he met Jessica. She was a pharmaceutical sales representative, beautiful in that polished magazine cover way that makes ordinary people feel inadequate. Blonde hair always perfectly styled, designer clothes, a confidence that bordered on arrogance. She was everything I wasn't. Sophisticated, wealthy, connected. Michael brought her to Sunday dinner 6 months ago. She'd walked into my little house, looked around with barely concealed disdain, and said, "Oh, this is cozy. You still have carpet from the 90s?" I'd laughed it off, served pot roast and mashed potatoes, Michael's favorite since he was a kid. Jessica had picked at her food, made comments about carbs and gluten, and spent most of dinner on her phone. But Michael looked at her like she'd hung the moon. "Isn't she amazing?" he'd asked me after she'd excused herself to make a phone call. "She's so successful, Mom. She makes 6 figures. She's got a condo in Pearl District. She's going places." I'd smiled and agreed, because that's what mothers do. We swallow our doubts. We support our children's choices even when every instinct screams that something is wrong. The engagement happened fast. 3 months after they met, Michael called to tell me he'd proposed at some fancy restaurant in downtown Portland. I'd been happy for him. Genuinely happy. My baby was growing up, starting his own family. This was what I'd worked for. His happiness, his future. "We want you involved in the wedding planning," Michael had said. "Jessica specifically said she wants you to feel included." That was a lie. Every planning meeting was scheduled when I was at work. Every decision was made without consulting me. The venue, the flowers, the menu, the guest list. Jessica chose everything and Michael just agreed. When I'd suggested maybe having the reception at a place that was less expensive so they could save money for a house, Jessica had laughed and said, "We're not having our wedding at the VFW hall, Sarah. We have standards." She'd stopped calling me Mrs. Mitchell after the second meeting. Started calling me Sarah with this particular tone, like my name was something distasteful she had to get out of her mouth quickly. And eventually it became Michael's mom, like I didn't deserve a name at all, like I was just a role, a function, an inconvenience. I'd tried to help, offered to make the wedding favors. I'm crafty. I like working with my hands. Jessica had declined. Offered to address the invitations. I have nice handwriting. Jessica had declined. Offered to contribute money. I'd been saving a bit each month for years, thinking maybe someday Michael would need help with a down payment. Jessica had actually laughed. "We don't need your money," she'd said, not even trying to be polite. "Michael makes plenty, and my parents are paying for most of the wedding anyway. You just show up. That's all you need to do. Show up." That was my role now. Just show up and be quiet and stay out of the way. My sister Linda had warned me. "That girl doesn't want you in Michael's life," she'd said over coffee one morning. "She's already planning your erasure. You need to talk to Michael." But I couldn't. How do you tell your son that you think his fiancée is trying to push you out? How do you risk damaging the relationship over a feeling, a sense that something isn't right? What if I was wrong? What if I was just being a jealous mother who couldn't let go? So I stayed quiet. I smiled through the uncomfortable dinners, the dismissive comments, the gradual distancing. I told myself it would get better after the wedding, that Jessica just needed time to adjust, that eventually she'd see I wasn't a threat. I told myself a lot of lies. And now, sitting at table 7 during the rehearsal dinner, watching her wear my wedding ring and announce I'd be seated near the bathrooms at my own son's wedding, I finally understood the truth. There was no place for me in this new life. Not at the family table, not in the photos, not in the memories. Jessica was making sure of it, and Michael was letting her. The morning after the rehearsal dinner, I woke up at 5 a.m. with my heart pounding. I'd barely slept. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw that ring on Jessica's finger, heard her voice saying, not the family table, obviously, felt the weight of the entire room's silence pressing down on me. I made coffee in the kitchen where Tom and I used to stand together on Sunday mornings, where he'd lean against the counter and tell me about his week while I scrambled eggs. The house felt too empty. It always did, but especially today, especially now. My phone buzzed. A text from Michael. "See you at the wedding. 2 p.m. sharp. Don't be late." No, "Good morning." No, "How are you feeling?" No acknowledgement of what had happened last night. Just instructions, like I was an employee who needed managing. I typed back, "We need to talk about the ring." 3 dots appeared, then disappeared, then appeared again. Finally, "Not today, Mom. Jessica's stressed about the wedding. Let's not make this harder than it needs to be. Let's not make this harder." As if I was the problem. As if I was the one creating difficulty by being upset that my wedding ring had been stolen and was now on another woman's hand. I called him instead of texting back. He didn't answer. I called again. Straight to voicemail. Linda arrived at 8 with bagels and the kind of determination only an older sister can muster. She let herself in with her spare key, found me still in my pajamas, staring at my empty jewelry box. "You're not going," she said. It wasn't a question. "He's my son. He stole from you. She stole from you. They humiliated you in front of everyone last night, and now you're just going to show up and smile and pretend it's okay. What else can I do?" My voice cracked. "If I don't go, I lose him completely. At least if I'm there, I'm still his mother. I'm still something." Linda sat down next to me on the bed. She didn't say anything for a long moment. Then, "You know he used to come to my house, right? Michael, after his father died. He was so angry, Sarah, so confused. He'd ask me why God would take his dad, why you had to work so much, why everything had to be so hard." I stared at her. "He never told me that. Because you were holding everything together. You were the strong one. He couldn't fall apart because you wouldn't let yourself fall apart. So he came to my house and he'd cry and I'd make him hot chocolate and we'd talk. What does this have to do with—" "He loved you so much," Linda interrupted. "He used to say you were a superhero, that you could do anything, fix anything, survive anything. He was so proud of you, Sarah. So proud." I felt tears burning in my eyes. That was a long time ago. Was it? Or did someone convince him to forget? We both knew who she meant. I'd noticed the changes gradually. 6 months ago, Michael called every Sunday. 5 months ago, every other Sunday. 4 months ago, once a month. 3 months ago, only when Jessica allowed it. And always with her in the background, listening, commenting, steering the conversation. "Your house is so outdated, Mrs. Mitchell," Jessica had said during one of those calls I wasn't supposed to hear. "Michael shouldn't have to grow up with old carpet and yellow tile following him into adulthood. It's embarrassing." Michael had laughed. Actually laughed. Another time. "Does your mother really still drive that car? It's ancient. What year is it?" like 1995. Michael, you should help her upgrade. It reflects poorly on us. Us. They were an us now, and I was something separate, something lesser. The distance hadn't happened overnight. It was strategic, calculated. Jessica had slowly, methodically convinced Michael that his past was something to be ashamed of, that his mother was an embarrassment, that moving forward meant leaving behind anything that didn't fit the image she was creating. And the image didn't include a working-class mother from Southeast Portland who still had carpet from the 90s. I got dressed for the wedding like I was preparing for battle. Linda helped me pick out a dress, a simple navy blue one, nothing flashy. Jessica had sent an email about the dress code. No white, cream, or ivory. No red. No patterns that might distract from the bridal party. Guests should aim for understated elegance. Guests. She'd called the mothers guests. The wedding was at a venue in West Lynn, an expensive estate overlooking the Willamette River. The kind of place that charges $20,000 just for the venue rental. The kind of place where the staff wears tuxedos and checks your name against a list before letting you in. I drove there with Linda. She'd insisted on coming as my +1, even though Michael had originally told me I could only bring myself. Limited seating, he'd explained. Jessica's family is large. The parking lot was full of luxury cars. BMWs, Mercedes, Teslas. My 2008 Honda Civic looked pathetic next to them. I almost laughed. Jessica's comment about my car suddenly made more sense. She didn't want me parking where other guests might see it, might associate it with the groom's family. Inside, the venue was breathtaking. Flowers everywhere. White roses, hydrangeas, orchids. Chandeliers dripping with crystals. A string quartet playing softly. Everything perfect. Everything expensive. Everything designed to impress. I found my assigned seat. Table 15. Not table 7 like last night. 15. Near the back. Just like Jessica had promised. Near the bathrooms. Linda's place card wasn't even there. "Ma'am." A young woman in a staff uniform approached. "Are you Sarah Mitchell?" My stomach dropped. "Yes. I'm supposed to tell you that your +1 isn't on the approved list. There's only one seat reserved for you." "That's ridiculous. My son..." "I'm just following instructions, ma'am. If there's an issue, you'll need to speak with the bride." The bride, not my son. The bride was in charge of whether my sister could sit with me at my own son's wedding. Linda touched my arm. "It's fine. I'll wait in the car." "No. Sarah, it's fine. I'll be outside. Come find me if you need me. This isn't worth fighting over." She left before I could argue. I sat down at table 15, alone, surrounded by people I didn't know. The woman next to me introduced herself as a college friend of Jessica's. She looked at my empty chair settings. There were supposed to be 8 people at the table, but only 6 place cards, and smiled sympathetically. "At least you're here," she said. Jessica's last boyfriend's mother wasn't even invited to the engagement party. Jessica thinks mothers get too involved in their own children's lives. The ceremony started. Michael walked down the aisle with Jessica's father. I watched my son, my beautiful, smart, kind son, and tried to recognize him. But the man standing at the altar wasn't the boy I'd raised. This man wore a custom tuxedo that probably cost more than my mortgage payment. This man stood with perfect posture, smiled with perfect teeth, looked like he belonged in a magazine spread. This man was a stranger. And then Jessica walked down the aisle, and I saw my ring, my grandmother's ring, my wedding ring, catching the light with every step, announcing to everyone that she had won, that she had taken everything. I remember the day Michael was born, July 15th, 1991, at 3:47 a.m. I'd been in labor for 18 hours, and Tom had stayed by my side the entire time, holding my hand, telling me I could do it, that I was the strongest person he'd ever known. When they finally placed Michael in my arms, this tiny, perfect, screaming bundle of humanity, Tom had looked at me with tears running down his face and said, "We made that. We made a whole person. Can you believe it?" I believed it. I felt it. This was my purpose, right here in my arms. This crying, red-faced, beautiful baby boy. We brought him home to our small house in Southeast Portland. The nursery was ready. Soft yellow walls, a crib Tom had assembled himself, a mobile with little stars that played "Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star." Everything was perfect. Everything was simple. Everything was filled with love. Tom worked long hours, but he always came home for dinner, always read Michael bedtime stories, Always got up for the 2 a.m. feedings, even though he had to be at work sites by 6. He was a good father, the best father. Michael's first word was Dada. I pretended to be jealous, but secretly I loved it. Loved watching Tom's face light up every time Michael toddled toward him, arms outstretched, calling for his father. I went back to work part-time when Michael was 6 months old. We needed the income. Electrician wages were decent, but not enough to cover everything in Portland. Tom's mother helped with childcare. She'd come over every day, bring homemade soup, tell me I was doing great even when I felt like I was falling apart from exhaustion. We were happy. Maybe we didn't have much money. Maybe we drove an old car and shopped at thrift stores and took vacations to the Oregon coast instead of Hawaii. But we had each other. We had love. We had enough. And then January 15th, 1999. Michael's 7th birthday was in 6 months. We'd been planning a party. He wanted to invite his entire 2nd grade class to the community center. Tom had been saving up for a bicycle, a red one Michael had seen at the bike shop. The rain had been coming down hard all week. I-84 was slick, dangerous. Tom's work site was out in Troutdale, 45 minutes away. I'd told him that morning to be careful. He'd kissed me goodbye, ruffled Michael's hair, said, "See you tonight, champ." He never made it home. The police said it was instantaneous. He wouldn't have suffered. They said that like it was supposed to comfort me, as if knowing Tom died quickly made it hurt less, as if the speed of his death somehow lessened the crater it left in our lives. Michael didn't understand at first. 7-year-olds don't really understand permanence. He kept asking when Daddy was coming home, kept setting a place for him at dinner, kept waiting by the window every evening at 6 o'clock, watching for Tom's truck. I didn't know how to help him grieve when I was drowning in my own grief. I cried in the shower so he wouldn't see, wore sunglasses to his school events to hide my red eyes, smiled through every parent-teacher conference, every birthday party, every moment I was supposed to be strong. The life insurance company informed me there was no policy. Tom had been meaning to set it up. It was on our to-do list, right after fixing the fence and getting the roof inspected. But we'd been young, healthy, invincible. Death was something that happened to other people, except it happened to us. The mortgage payment was $200 a month. Tom's truck payment was $380. Utilities, groceries, insurance, childcare, it all added up to more than I made at the hospital. I picked up extra shifts, started working full-time, then overtime. My mother-in-law continued helping with Michael, bless her, but I could see how it was wearing on her. She was 65, recently retired, had been looking forward to traveling with her husband. Instead, she was raising my son while I tried to keep our house from being foreclosed. I learned to do everything Tom used to do, fixed the leaky faucet by watching YouTube videos, changed the car oil in the driveway, painted the house exterior myself one summer, sweating in the July heat while Michael handed me paintbrushes and told me about his day. "Mom," he'd said once when he was about 10, "do we not have a lot of money?" I'd frozen mid-brushstroke. "We have enough. Justin's mom drives a new car, and they went to Disneyland last summer. We've never been to Disneyland. Would you want to go?" He'd thought about it seriously, this solemn little boy with his father's eyes. "Only if we could afford it. I don't want you to be worried about money." 10 years old, and he was worried about me. I'd pulled him into a hug, got yellow paint on his shirt, promised him that someday we'd go to Disneyland. We never did, but we had good times anyway. We went camping at Silver Falls State Park. We drove to the coast and searched for agates. We had movie nights with popcorn and hot chocolate. We had each other. Michael thrived despite everything, or maybe because of everything. He was responsible, mature beyond his years. He got good grades without being asked. He helped around the house. He never complained about wearing secondhand clothes or eating spaghetti 3 times a week because it was cheap and easy. "You're raising a good man," my mother-in-law told me once. Tom would be so proud. I hoped so. I hoped every day that I was doing right by Michael, that somehow I was enough, that Tom's death wouldn't define his life. High school was hard. Michael saw his classmates getting new cars for their 16th birthdays while he took the bus. Saw them going on spring break trips while we couldn't afford new shoes. But he never made me feel guilty about it. He just worked harder, studied more, aimed higher. When the full scholarship letter from Oregon State arrived, I wept with relief. This was it. This was the proof that everything I'd sacrificed had been worth it. Michael was going to college. He was going to have opportunities. He was going to escape the cycle of barely surviving that had defined my entire adult life. "I couldn't have done this without you," he'd said on graduation day, wearing his cap and gown. Looking so much like Tom, it hurt. "Everything you did, Mom. Every shift you worked. Every time you went without so I could have something. I saw it all. I know what you gave up for me." I'd hugged him so tight. "You were worth every second. I'm going to make you proud," he'd promised. "I'm going to be successful and take care of you, and make sure you never have to worry about money again." That's a promise. I'd believed him. For years I believed him. He got the job at Intel, started making $70,000 a year, then 80, then 90. He bought himself a nice apartment, a new car. He took me out to dinner occasionally, nice restaurants where the entrees cost more than I usually spent on groceries for a week. "This is just the beginning," he'd said over steak at Urban Farmer. "I'm going to buy you a house, Mom. A nice one. No more worrying about that roof or that ancient water heater. I'm going to take care of you." But then he met Jessica, and suddenly there was no more talk of buying his mother a house. Suddenly his money was going toward her lifestyle, her expectations, her vision of success that didn't include his working-class mother from Southeast Portland. Now, sitting at table 15, watching him marry this woman wearing my stolen ring, I wondered, when did I stop being worth taking care of? When did the promise change? When did I become the embarrassment instead of the reason for his success? I'd given him everything. Every dollar I earned, every hour I worked, every dream I'd had for myself. Going back to school, traveling, maybe dating again someday. I'd put it all aside for him, and this was how it ended. Alone at table 15, watching my past being erased, watching my son forget where he came from. The ceremony was beautiful. I had to admit that. Jessica looked stunning in her designer gown, all lace and silk, and a train that seemed to go on forever. The flowers were perfect. The music was perfect. Everything was orchestrated with precision. When the officiant asked if anyone objected to the union, I felt my sister's absence keenly. Linda would have stood up. She would have said something. But I stayed silent, because what was I supposed to say? That the bride was wearing my stolen ring? That I'd been relegated to the back like a stranger? Nobody would have cared. Michael said his vows looking at Jessica like she'd invented love. Jessica said hers with tears streaming down her face. Real tears? Or strategic tears? I couldn't tell anymore. "I now pronounce you husband and wife." The room erupted in applause. Michael kissed Jessica, and she held up her hand. Her left hand, my grandmother's ring catching the light, and everyone clapped harder. I clapped too. What else was I supposed to do? The reception was at the same venue, in a ballroom decorated with more flowers than I'd seen in my entire life. Round tables with pristine white linens, gold cutlery, centerpieces that probably cost more than my monthly mortgage payment. A band was setting up in the corner. A real band, not a DJ. Table 15 was somehow even farther back than I'd thought. I was seated between a woman who introduced herself as Jessica's former co-worker and a man who was on his phone the entire time and never spoke to me once. The family table, table 1, right in front, had Michael and Jessica, of course, along with Jessica's parents, her 2 siblings, and several people I didn't recognize. No empty chair for the groom's mother. No acknowledgement that anyone was missing. Linda was right. They were erasing me in real time and everyone was pretending not to notice. Dinner was served. Filet mignon and Chilean sea bass, plated beautifully, accompanied by wine that I'm sure was expensive. I barely tasted it. My throat was tight, my stomach churning. I kept waiting for Michael to look back at me, to check if I was okay, to acknowledge my existence. He never did. The toast started. Jessica's father stood up with his champagne glass, told a charming story about Jessica's childhood, welcomed Michael into the family. "You're a good man," he said to Michael. "You've built a successful life for yourself. We're proud to call you our son." Built a successful life for himself, as if he'd done it alone, as if he'd emerged fully formed from the ether. No history, no struggle, no mother who worked herself to exhaustion to make sure he had a future. Jessica's maid of honor gave a speech about their college years, about how Jessica always knew what she wanted and always got it. "When Jessica sets her mind on something, nothing stands in her way," she said with a laugh. "Not even someone else's claim to it." Was that a joke about the ring? I saw a few people glance toward Jessica's hand. Was I being paranoid? Or Or was everyone in on some terrible joke at my expense? Then the best man stood up, Michael's friend Derek from college, and I waited for him to mention me, to say something about how Michael's mother raised him alone, how she sacrificed, how she made him the man he is today. Michael's the kind of guy who knows how to leave the past behind and focus on the future, Derek said. He doesn't let old baggage weigh him down. He's all about moving forward, building something new, being better. And Jessica's the same way. They're perfect for each other because they both understand that success means letting go of what doesn't serve you anymore. Old baggage, what doesn't serve you. The room applauded. Michael raised his glass in agreement. I excused myself and went to the bathroom, locked myself in a stall, tried to breathe, tried not to cry because if I started, I might never stop. When I came out, I heard voices near the bathroom entrance. Women laughing, talking. I recognized one of them, Jessica. I can't believe she actually came, Jessica was saying. I thought for sure she'd get the hint after last night. She's persistent, another voice said. One of the bridesmaids, I think. Are you sure Michael's okay with all this? Michael doesn't care. He's finally realizing that his mother is just exhausting, always needing something, always making him feel guilty. Did you know she tried to guilt him about the ring? My ring now. She called him this morning crying about it. I hadn't called him crying. I'd texted, once, asking to talk. At least you don't have to deal with her much longer, the bridesmaid said. Once you guys move, you'll barely see her. Move? They were moving? San Diego office offered Michael a senior position, Jessica continued. We're relocating next month, finally getting away from Portland and all its limitations, including his mother. I told Michael we're starting fresh. New city, new life, no dead weight from his past. Dead weight. I was dead weight. Does his mother know? God, no. Michael said he'd tell her eventually, but honestly, I told him it might be easier to just not. Let her figure it out when we're already gone. No big dramatic goodbye. Just a clean break. They were planning to move across the country and not tell me. They were planning to ghost me, like I was an ex-girlfriend they wanted to avoid, not the mother who'd raised him. I couldn't breathe. The walls were closing in. I walked past them. They didn't even notice me, too absorbed in their conversation, and headed outside to find Linda. She was in the car reading a book. When she saw my face, she put the book down immediately. We're leaving, she said. No, I need to talk to Michael. Sarah, I raised him. I deserve an explanation. My voice broke. I deserve to be treated like I matter. Linda drove me back to the venue entrance. The reception was in full swing. People dancing, laughing, drinking. I scanned the room for Michael, found him on the dance floor with Jessica, both of them glowing with happiness. I waited on the sidelines, waited for the song to end, waited for my moment. When it did, I approached. Michael, can we talk? He turned, saw me, and his expression shifted. Not to love or concern, but to irritation. Annoyance that I was interrupting his perfect night. Mom, what is it? Can we go somewhere private? Jessica materialized at his side. Actually, we're about to cut the cake. Whatever it is can wait. No, I said, surprising myself with the firmness in my voice. It can't. Michael sighed. 5 minutes. Outside. We went to a patio area overlooking the river. The sunset was beautiful, gold and pink spreading across the water. Under different circumstances, I might have thought this was romantic. What's going on? Michael asked, checking his watch. Your ring, my wedding ring. Why is Jessica wearing it? I told you. You said I could have it. I never said that. It was stolen from my house. 3 months ago. I filed a police report. His face hardened. You filed a police report? Against Jessica? I didn't know it was her at the time. This is exactly what I'm talking about, he interrupted. You're always creating drama, always making everything about you. Jessica is my wife now. The ring looks better on her anyway. The words hit like a physical blow. Michael, that ring was from your father. It was the last thing. Dad's been dead for 26 years, Michael said coldly. At some point, you need to let go. Move on. The ring is just a thing, Mom. It's not sacred. It's my thing. It was stolen. You're being dramatic. Jessica said you gave it to her. Jessica lied. Or you're lying. Honestly, I don't know what to believe anymore. You've been weird ever since I got engaged. Jealous. Possessive. Jessica says it's normal for mothers to struggle when their sons get married, but this is excessive. I stared at him. This stranger wearing my son's face. You're moving to San Diego, I said quietly. His expression flickered. Surprise, then anger. Who told you that? When were you planning to mention it? Eventually. Michael, I'm your mother. Yeah, and you act like that gives you ownership of my life. It doesn't. I'm an adult. I make my own decisions. And Jessica and I decided that San Diego is better for our future. Portland it's where I grew up. And I'm grateful for that. But I need something more now. Something more. As if everything I'd given him was somehow less than. I sacrificed everything for you, I whispered. I didn't ask you to. The words hung in the air between us. Final. Devastating. True. You're right, I said after a long moment. You didn't ask. I chose to give you everything because I loved you. Because you were my world. But clearly that doesn't mean anything to you anymore. Mom, I hope San Diego is everything you want it to be, I said, my voice surprisingly steady. I hope Jessica makes you happy. I hope you build a wonderful life together. But don't expect me to be part of it. Not like this. Not as someone you're ashamed of. I walked away before he could respond. Before I could cry. Before I could break down completely. Linda was waiting in the car. She didn't ask questions. Just drove me home in silence. I got home. Walked into my small house with its yellow tiles and outdated carpet. And finally let myself fall apart. I called in sick to work on Monday. Then Tuesday. By Wednesday, my supervisor called to check on me. Concerned because I'd never taken sick days before. I just need a few days, I told her, my voice raw from crying. Family emergency. It wasn't a lie. Linda came over every day, brought groceries I didn't eat, made tea I didn't drink, sat with me in silence when words felt impossible. On the third day, she set a pile of documents on my kitchen table. I need you to look at something, she said. I stared at the papers without touching them. If this is about lawyers, I don't want to. It's not about lawyers. It's about you. She opened the folder. Inside were bank statements, property records, investment documents, all in my name. Papers I vaguely remembered signing over the years, but had never really examined. Do you know what you're worth, Sarah? I laughed bitterly. I'm worth nothing. My son just made that very clear. Financially, I mean. Do you know what you own? I shrugged. The house, whatever's left on the mortgage. Maybe $20,000 in savings if I'm lucky. Linda shook her head. You're wrong. Look at this. She pointed to a document dated 1999. Tom's employer benefit statement. After Tom died, his company had a death benefit. Not insurance exactly, but a company policy. You remember signing for this? I vaguely did. There had been so many papers to sign. So many details to manage while I was drowning in grief. That was 26 years ago. The money's long gone. You didn't use it. Look, she showed me another statement. You set up a trust. Automatic deposits into an investment account. You forgot about it, Sarah. You were working so hard. Surviving day to day. You forgot you had this. I looked at the numbers. Then looked again. That can't be right. It's right. 26 years of compound interest. Plus, look at this. She pulled out another document. Tom's 401k. You were the beneficiary. You rolled it into an IRA and never touched it. Did you know that? I felt dizzy. I don't understand. You have $370,000, Linda said clearly. More than enough to retire comfortably. More than enough to do whatever you want. You've been living like you're broke when you're actually financially secure. $370,000. I'd been working overtime shifts for 26 years while money sat in accounts I'd forgotten existed. Why didn't I know this? Because you were surviving, not living. Because you were focused entirely on Michael, on making sure he had everything, that you forgot to take care of yourself. I put my head in my hands. All those years, all that stress, the overtime shifts that destroyed my back, the retirement accounts I never contributed to because I thought I couldn't afford it, the vacations I never took, the life I never lived. There's more, Linda said quietly. The house. Do you know what it's worth? I still owe money on the mortgage. You owe $60,000. The house is worth $520,000. Portland's real estate market exploded. Your little house in Southeast is worth $500,000. If you sold it, you'd walk away with over $400,000 after paying off the mortgage. I couldn't process it. Nearly $800,000. I wasn't rich, But I wasn't the struggling single mother living paycheck to paycheck anymore. That version of me had died years ago, but I'd kept playing her role anyway. "Sarah," Linda said, her voice gentle, "you've been letting Michael and Jessica treat you like you're worthless because you believed you were. But you're not. You built a life. You survived. You have resources. You have options. You don't need their approval or their pity or their table scraps." Something shifted inside me, a crack in the grief, letting light through. "What do I do?" I whispered. "What do you want to do?" I thought about that, really thought about it. What did I want? I wanted to stop feeling worthless. I wanted to stop apologizing for existing. I wanted to stop being erased from my own son's life, as if I were an embarrassment instead of the reason he had a life to live. "I want my ring back," I said finally, "and I want them to know they don't get to treat me like garbage." Linda smiled. "Good. Let's make a plan." Over the next few days, I started to see clearly for the first time in years. I'd been playing the role of the struggling single mother so long, I'd missed the part where I wasn't struggling anymore. I'd let Michael's perception of me, and Jessica's cruel manipulations, define my worth. But they were wrong. I wasn't dead weight. I wasn't an embarrassment. I wasn't someone to be pushed aside and forgotten. I was Sarah Mitchell. I'd survived losing my husband. I'd raised a son alone. I'd worked myself to exhaustion to give him opportunities. I'd built something from nothing and made it work. And now I had resources. I had options. I had power I hadn't even known existed. On Friday, I went back to work. My supervisor was relieved to see me. I told her I needed to talk about something important, my future with the company. "I'm thinking about retiring," I said. She looked surprised. "You're only 54. I know, but I've been here for 28 years. I've given enough time to this place. I want to do something else with whatever life I have left." "What would you do?" I hadn't figured that out yet, but for the first time in decades, I felt excited about possibilities instead of trapped by obligations. On Saturday, I went to the bank, met with a financial advisor, looked at all my accounts, all my assets, all the money I'd forgotten existed. "You're in excellent shape," the advisor said. "You could retire now if you wanted. Travel, buy a new house, invest, whatever you want to do." Whatever I wanted to do. When was the last time I'd thought about what I wanted instead of what Michael needed? On Sunday, I didn't call Michael. For the first time in his entire life, I broke our pattern. I didn't reach out, didn't text, didn't apologize for existing. He didn't call me either. That night, I sat in my kitchen and made a list. 1. Get the ring back. 2. Protect my assets. 3. Set boundaries. 4. Build a life for myself. 5. Stop being invisible. I didn't know how to do any of it yet, but I knew I couldn't keep living the way I had been. Something had to change, and that something was me. Monday morning, I called a lawyer. Linda had given me a name, Patricia Chen, a family law attorney who specialized in estate disputes and theft cases. "She's tough," Linda said. "You'll like her." I didn't want tough. I wanted my ring back, and I wanted to disappear, but I made the appointment anyway. Patricia's office was in downtown Portland, in one of those old buildings with tall windows and hardwood floors. She was younger than I expected, maybe 40, sharp-eyed, wearing a suit that meant business. "Tell me everything," she said after we'd settled in her office. I told her about the ring, about the wedding, about Jessica wearing it publicly, claiming I'd given it to her, about Michael insisting I'd agreed. Patricia took notes. "Do you have proof it was stolen? I filed a police report 3 months ago. I have photos of the ring from before it disappeared, insurance photos, and I have witnesses who know I never would have given it away. My sister, friends from work. Good. What's the value? Sentimental value is priceless, but the diamonds alone are worth about $15,000. The setting is antique, custom made in 1989, probably another $5,000. Patricia nodded. "Here's the situation. You can file for a civil recovery. We can send a cease and desist letter demanding the ring's return. If they refuse, we can sue. But," she paused, "this is your son and his new wife. Are you prepared for that fight? It will destroy whatever relationship remains." "There is no relationship," I said quietly. "He's moving to San Diego and wasn't planning to tell me." Her expression softened slightly. "I'm sorry. That's hard. Can I get the ring back? Legally? Yes, probably. Practically? It depends on whether they fight it. If Jessica claims it was a gift, she might argue she received it in good faith from your son. But since you filed a police report before the wedding, and you have documented proof of ownership, you have a strong case. Send the letter, I said. Sarah, think about this. I have thought about it. For days. For months, actually. I've thought about it every moment since I saw my wedding ring on her hand. Send the letter. Patricia nodded and made another note. I'll draft it today. What's their address? I gave her Michael's apartment address in Hillsborough, but they might not be there much. I heard they're moving soon. I'll send it certified mail, return receipt requested. They'll have to sign for it. As I was getting ready to leave, Patricia said, There's something else you should consider. What? Estate planning. If something happens to you, where does your money go? I froze. Michael, I guess. He's my only child. Even after everything he's done, even after he's made it clear you're not part of his life, I'd never thought about it. Of course my money would go to Michael. He was my son. That's what mothers do. They leave everything to their children. But Patricia was right. Why would I leave hundreds of thousands of dollars to someone who treated me like I was worthless? To someone who let his wife steal from me? To someone who was planning to move across the country without saying goodbye? What are my options? I asked. You could leave it to charity, to your sister, to friends. You could set up conditions. He only inherits if certain requirements are met. You could split it among multiple people. It's your money, Sarah. You get to decide. I need to think about it. Take your time, but do think about it. Estate planning isn't just about death. It's about protecting yourself while you're alive, too. I left her office feeling strange, powerful maybe. For so long, I'd felt like I had no choices, no control. But I did. I had money. I had legal rights. I had the ability to protect myself. That afternoon, I did something I'd never done before. I went to a spa. Used some of that money I'd been hoarding for decades. Got a massage, a facial, my nails done. Spent 2 hours being pampered instead of worrying about everyone else. It felt wrong at first, selfish, indulgent. Then it felt amazing. The woman doing my nails asked me what the occasion was. I almost said nothing, then stopped myself. I'm celebrating, I said. What are you celebrating? Realizing I matter. She smiled. That's the best reason to celebrate. Wednesday afternoon, Patricia called. The letter was delivered. Someone signed for it. Michael Hansen. My stomach dropped. And now we wait. They have 10 days to respond. Either they return the ring voluntarily, or we proceed with legal action. 10 days. I could wait 10 days. On day 3, Michael called. I let it go to voicemail. He called again. I let it go to voicemail again. He texted, "We need to talk. Now." I didn't respond. Day 5, he showed up at my house. Pounded on the door. "Mom, I know you're in there. Open up." I watched him through the window. My son standing on my porch, angry instead of apologetic, demanding instead of asking. I opened the door but kept the security chain on. What the hell is this? He shoved papers through the gap. Patricia's letter. "You're suing us. You're actually suing us over a ring. It's my ring. It was stolen. I want it back." "Mom, this is insane. Jessica is devastated. She thinks you hate her." "I don't hate her. I hate what she did. She didn't do anything. I gave her the ring. It wasn't yours to give. You're my mother. Everything you have should be mine eventually anyway." The words hung in the air. The truth, finally spoken aloud. "Everything I have should be yours," I repeated slowly. "Is that what you think? That you're entitled to everything I've worked for? That's not what I meant." "Yes, it is. You think because you're my son, you own me. My time, my money, my possessions, my dignity. You think I exist to serve you, and when I'm not useful anymore, I can be discarded. That's not fair. What's not fair is stealing from me. What's not fair is humiliating me at your wedding. What's not fair is planning to move across the country without telling me. Don't talk to me about fair, Michael." He looked shocked, like he'd never heard me speak to him like this before. Maybe I never had. "I'm your son," he said, his voice smaller now, "and I'm your mother. But that doesn't mean you get to treat me like trash." Jessica knew exactly what she was doing, and you let her. That's worse. What do you want from me? The ring, and an apology, and for you to look me in the eye and tell me the truth. Do you even love me anymore? Or am I just an obligation you're trying to escape? He couldn't answer, or wouldn't. After a long silence, I said, "You have 5 days left to return the ring. After that, my lawyer takes it to court." "Your choice." I closed the door, sat down on the floor with my back against it, and waited for him to knock again. He didn't. The next 5 days passed in strange silence. Michael didn't call, didn't text, didn't show up at my house again. It was like I'd ceased to exist for him, which maybe I had years ago and I was only now noticing. I spent the time preparing, not for war. I didn't want war, but for survival, for protection, for whatever came next. First, I changed my will. Met with Patricia again, this time with a different purpose. "I want to set up a trust," I said. "I want my money protected, and I want conditions." Patricia pulled out forms. "What kind of conditions?" "If Michael wants to inherit anything, he has to meet with me. Sit down, face to face, and have an honest conversation about what happened. And he has to return the ring first. If he doesn't, everything goes to charity." "Which charity?" I thought about it. "The Children's Hospital, and a scholarship fund for single parents trying to go to college. People who need help, who are where I was 26 years ago." Patricia smiled. "That's good. What else?" "I want to protect the house. If something happens to me, Michael doesn't get it. Not unless he meets those conditions. Otherwise, it goes to Linda." "Done. Anything else?" "I want to make sure he can't contest this, that he can't claim I was mentally incompetent or coerced. I want it airtight. We'll make it airtight." Signing those papers felt like taking back power I hadn't known I'd lost. This was my life, my money, my choices. Michael didn't own my future just because he was my son. Second, I talked to my supervisor about retirement. Really talked, not just vague mentions. "I want to retire at the end of the year," I said. "I've got enough saved. I want to do something different with my life." She was disappointed to lose me, but supportive. "You've given so much to this place, Sarah. You deserve to enjoy your life. What will you do?" "I don't know yet. Maybe travel. Maybe volunteer. Maybe just sit on my porch and read books for a year. I've earned the right to figure it out as I go." She hugged me. "You absolutely have." Third, I started sorting through the house. 28 years of accumulated life, of memories, of Michael's childhood. I found his old school projects in the attic, report cards, his baby shoes, photos of him with Tom, both of them grinning at the camera. I cried looking at those photos. This little boy with his father's eyes, so full of love and innocence. When had he become this other person? When had Jessica's poison taken root? Or had I just never noticed he was capable of cruelty? Linda came over and helped me sort. "What are you going to do with all this?" "I don't know. Part of me wants to keep it all. Part of me wants to burn it." "Don't burn it. Put it in storage. Decide later." We packed boxes, labeled them, stored them in the garage. Michael's entire childhood, reduced to cardboard containers. Fourth, I reached out to people I'd lost touch with, old friends from before Tom died, co-workers from years ago. I'd been so focused on survival, on Michael, that I'd let relationships fade away. I called Beth, my best friend from high school, who I hadn't spoken to in a decade. "I know this is random," I said when she answered, "but I wanted to reconnect." "Sarah? Oh my God, is everything okay?" "Actually, yeah. For the first time in a long time, I think it might be." We talked for 2 hours, made plans to meet for coffee. She invited me to her book club. I said yes, without hesitating. I called Margaret, who used to work in my department before retiring 5 years ago. We'd been close once, used to have lunch together every day. But after she retired, we just stopped talking. "I'm sorry I disappeared," I told her. "I got so caught up in my own life, I forgot to maintain friendships." "Life happens," she said graciously. "How are you? How's Michael?" And for the first time, I was honest. "Michael and I aren't speaking right now. It's complicated. I'm sorry. Don't be. I'm finally figuring out who I am without him, and it's freeing, actually. Good for you. Seriously. It's easy to lose yourself in being someone's mother. It's hard to remember you're also just Sarah. Just Sarah. When was the last time I'd been just Sarah? Fifth, I started planning for what came next. I looked at travel websites, cruise packages, tours of Europe, a train trip across America, things I'd always wanted to do but never allowed myself because the money could be better spent on Michael. But Michael didn't need my money anymore, and he certainly didn't want it from me. Linda found me looking at a river cruise through Germany one afternoon. Are you actually going to book something? Maybe. Is that crazy? It's the opposite of crazy. It's sane. It's choosing yourself for once. I've never chosen myself. I know. That's why you should start. On day 9, one day before the deadline for returning the ring, Patricia called. I heard from their lawyer, she said. My heart sank. They got a lawyer? Jessica's father hired one. Expensive one, too. They're claiming the ring was a gift. They're refusing to return it unless you withdraw the legal threat and sign a document stating you voluntarily gave it to Michael. That's a lie. I know. But they're betting you won't want to go to court. They think you'll back down. I won't. Sarah, court is expensive. It's time-consuming. It's emotionally draining. Are you sure? I thought about the ring, about Tom proposing on a cold November night, about wearing it through every hardship, every struggle, every moment of my life, about what it meant to me versus what it meant to Jessica. A trophy, a symbol of winning. I'm sure, I said. File whatever we need to file. I'm not backing down. Okay, I'll file the civil suit tomorrow. This is really happening. Good. That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept replaying everything. The wedding, the humiliation, Michael's cold words, the years of sacrifice that now felt meaningless, but also the money I'd forgotten I had, the house I'd thought was worthless but wasn't, the future I'd never let myself imagine. At 3 a.m, I got up and made tea, sat in my kitchen where Tom and I used to plan our life together. I'm doing this for me, I said aloud to the empty room. To Tom, maybe. To myself. Not for revenge, not to hurt Michael, but because I deserve to be treated with respect. Because my things are my things. Because I matter. The house stayed silent, but somehow I felt like Tom would have understood. The lawsuit was filed on a Thursday. By Friday afternoon, my phone was ringing off the hook. Jessica's mother called first. I didn't answer. She left a voicemail. Sarah, this is Diane. I don't know what you think you're accomplishing with this ridiculous lawsuit, but you're embarrassing yourself and hurting my daughter. Jessica is in tears. She thought the ring was a gift. She's devastated that you're attacking her like this. Please, be reasonable and drop this nonsense. Devastated that she got caught, maybe. Michael called next. 3 times. I answered on the 3rd call. Mom, please. You're ruining everything. I'm ruining things. I'm not the one who stole a ring and then lied about it. We didn't steal anything. I gave it to her. It was my ring to give. It was never your ring, Michael. It was mine. And you know it. Why are you doing this? Why can't you just let it go? Why couldn't you just tell me you were moving to San Diego? Why couldn't you include me in your wedding? Why couldn't you treat me like I mattered? Silence on the other end. This isn't just about a ring, I continued. This is about you and Jessica erasing me from your life like I'm an embarrassment. Like everything I did for you meant nothing. That's not true. Then prove it. Return the ring. Apologize for how I was treated. Acknowledge that what happened was wrong. Jessica will never agree to that. Then I guess we'll see each other in court. I hung up. The next call was from Jessica herself. Her voice was sugar-sweet, manipulative in a way I recognize now. Sarah, I really think we need to talk, woman to woman. There's been such a misunderstanding. Michael told me you'd given him the ring for his future wife. I had no idea you didn't mean me specifically. I thought it was a blessing from you, a welcoming gesture. If I'd known it would upset you, I never would have accepted it. Every word was a lie, and she knew I knew it. Jessica, you took that ring from my jewelry box. You stole it. I've never been in your jewelry box. That's absurd. You were in my house. You used my bathroom. You went into my bedroom. And the ring disappeared that day. Coincidence. Or maybe you misplaced it and forgot. Aren't you going through menopause? I've heard that can affect memory. I closed my eyes, counted to 10. See you in court. Wait. Sarah, please. Can't we work this out? I'm willing to give you a different ring. Something nice from a jeweler. Michael and I will pay for it. You can pick whatever you want. Just drop the lawsuit and let me keep this one. It means so much to me. It's part of my wedding memories now. It means so much to you that you're willing to steal it and lie about it. I didn't steal anything. Then why did you tell everyone at the wedding that I gave it to you? Why did you say it deserved to be on a hand that appreciated beautiful things? Why did you tell the bridesmaids in the bathroom that I was dead weight? Silence. She hadn't known I'd heard that conversation. I think we're done here, I said. "You're going to regret this," Jessica said, her sweet tone dropping away. "You're going to lose your son over a stupid ring. Is that what you want? To never see your son again? To never meet your grandchildren? Because that's what will happen if you go through with this. If Michael chooses you over basic decency toward his own mother, then I've already lost him. The lawsuit is just making it official." I hung up before she could respond. The threats escalated. I got emails from Jessica's father's lawyer. Formal, intimidating, full of legal jargon designed to scare me into backing down. Patricia handled them calmly, sending back responses that made it clear we weren't going anywhere. Michael showed up at my house again, this time with Jessica. I opened the door with the chain on. "We need to talk," Michael said. "Through lawyers. That's how this works now. Mom, please. This has gotten out of hand. Let's just forget about all of it and move forward. Give me the ring. Apologize for how you treated me, and we can talk about moving forward." Jessica stepped forward. "You know what? Keep your stupid ring. I don't even want it anymore. It's cursed anyway. It belonged to a woman who couldn't keep her husband alive." The words were designed to cut deep. They did. Michael looked shocked. "Jessica, what?" "It's true. She thinks she's so noble, raising you alone. But maybe if she'd been a better wife, your father wouldn't have been driving in the rain that day. Maybe if she'd packed him a lunch, he wouldn't have been coming home for dinner. Maybe if she'd..." I slammed the door in her face, locked it, walked away while they pounded and yelled. Linda found me in the bathroom, crying so hard I couldn't breathe. "What happened?" I told her what Jessica had said. About Tom. About it being my fault. Linda's face went white with rage. "That evil, manipulative. She knows exactly where to twist the knife," I said. "She knows I've always wondered if I could have prevented it somehow. If I'd asked Tom to come home earlier. If I'd told him to take the day off. If I'd..." "Sarah, stop. Tom's death was an accident. It was not your fault. And Jessica using it as a weapon tells you everything you need to know about her character." Michael didn't stop her. "I know. I'm sorry." The hearing was scheduled for 2 weeks later. Small claims court, Judge Morrison presiding. Patricia prepared me for what to expect. We'd present our evidence. They'd present theirs. The judge would decide. "Do I have to see them?" I asked. "Yes. You'll be in the same courtroom." "I don't know if I can." "You can. You're stronger than you think, Sarah. You've survived worse than this." The night before the hearing, I laid out my clothes. A simple black dress, professional, dignified. I gathered my evidence, the police report, the insurance photos of the ring, photos from the wedding showing Jessica wearing it, witness statements from Linda, and 2 co-workers who knew the ring's significance. I barely slept. Morning came. Linda drove me to the courthouse. We parked and sat in the car for a moment. "Ready?" she asked. "No, but let's do it anyway." Inside, the courthouse was cold and official. Michael and Jessica were already there with their lawyer, a man in an expensive suit who looked at me like I was wasting everyone's time. Patricia met us in the hallway. "Remember, stay calm. Answer only the questions asked. Don't get emotional." The bailiff called us in. We sat on opposite sides, me with Patricia and Linda, them with their lawyer. Michael wouldn't look at me. Jessica smirked. Judge Morrison entered. Everyone stood. She was a woman in her 60s with sharp eyes and an expression that said she'd seen everything. "This is case number 247, Mitchell versus Hansen, civil recovery of stolen property. I've reviewed the filings. Ms. Chen, you may present." Patricia stood. Calmly, clearly, she laid out the facts. The ring's history, its disappearance, the police report filed before the wedding, the public wearing of the ring at the wedding with Jessica claiming it was a gift, the refusal to return it. Then it was their lawyer's turn. He argued that Michael had given the ring to Jessica in good faith, believing he had his mother's permission, that family heirlooms often passed to the next generation, that this was a family dispute, not a theft. The judge listened to both sides without expression. Then she said, "I'd like to hear from Mrs. Hansen directly." Jessica stood, composed, beautiful, confident. "Your Honor, I truly believed this ring was a gift. Michael presented it to me as a symbol of his mother's blessing on our marriage. I had no idea she would object. If I'd known, I never would have accepted it. When did Michael give you this ring?" 2 months before the wedding. "And where did he get it?" I don't know. I assumed it was from his mother." "You never asked?" Jessica faltered slightly. "No, Your Honor. Ms. Chen's evidence shows the ring was reported stolen 3 months before the wedding. You married Mr. Hansen 1 month ago. You've had this ring for 3 months total. In that time, did Mrs. Mitchell ever contact you to say she'd given it to you? No, but did she attend your wedding? Yes. Did she say anything about the ring at the wedding? Well, she was upset, but I thought she was just being dramatic. Yes or no, Ms. Hansen? No, not at the wedding. But you wore it publicly. You announced it was on the hand it was meant for. Those were your words, according to witness statements. What did you mean by that? Jessica's composure cracked. I just meant it was meant for Michael's wife, which presumes Mrs. Mitchell was no longer entitled to be Michael's wife. Because she was divorced? No, or because she was dead. Your Honor, I didn't mean... You either believed this was a gift, in which case you would have been gracious toward the giver, or you knew it wasn't a gift, and you took it anyway. Which is it? Jessica sat down, flustered. The judge turned to Michael. Mr. Hansen, did your mother give you permission to take this ring? Michael stood reluctantly. She never explicitly said no. Did she explicitly say yes? Not in those words. So you took a ring worth approximately $20,000 from your mother's jewelry box without asking permission, gave it to your fiancé, and when your mother filed a police report about it being stolen, you did nothing. I didn't know about the police report until later, but you knew it was missing. Yes, and you didn't tell her you had it. Michael's face was red. I thought she'd be happy to see it used. Did you ask her? No. Why not? Silence. Judge Morrison looked down at her notes, then looked up at me. Mrs. Mitchell, do you want this ring back? I stood. Yes, Your Honor. It's the only thing I have left of my husband. And if it's returned, will that settle this matter? Yes. She nodded, looked at Jessica. Ms. Hansen, give Mrs. Mitchell the ring. Your Honor, now. Jessica's hand shook as she pulled the ring off her finger. She walked across the courtroom, threw it on the table in front of me, and walked back. I picked it up. Tom's ring. My ring. Home. This case is settled, Judge Morrison said. Mr. Hansen, Ms. Hansen, if you ever take something from Mrs. Mitchell again without her explicit written permission, you'll face charges for theft. Do you understand? Yes, Your Honor, Michael mumbled. Mrs. Mitchell, I'm sorry for what you've been through. Family disputes are never easy. Thank you, Your Honor. Court was dismissed. I walked out with Linda and Patricia, the ring clutched in my hand. Michael called after me in the parking lot. Mom, wait. I turned, looked at him. My son, who had chosen cruelty over kindness, who had let his wife destroy the woman who raised him. Goodbye, Michael, I said, and walked away. The ring sits in a safe deposit box now. I don't wear it anymore. That part of my life is over. But I visit it sometimes, open the box, remember Tom and what we built together. Remember that I was loved once, completely and wholly, by a good man who saw my worth. 3 months have passed since the courthouse. Michael hasn't called. Neither have I. Linda says he moved to San Diego with Jessica 2 weeks after the hearing. Bought a house in La Jolla, expensive neighborhood, ocean views. Jessica posts photos on social media of their new life. Perfect. Curated. No evidence I ever existed. I don't look anymore. I blocked her accounts. Blocked Michael's too. What's the point of torturing myself with images of a life I'm not part of? Instead, I'm building my own life. I retired from the hospital last month. Had a small party with coworkers who'd become friends over the years. They gave me a plaque thanking me for 28 years of service. I cried, but they were good tears, grateful tears. With Linda's help, I sold the house in Southeast Portland. Got $530,000 for it, even more than expected. Paid off the mortgage, put the rest in investments. Between that and the money I'd forgotten about, I'm financially comfortable for the first time in my life. I bought a small condo in Northwest Portland, near the Pearl District. Modern, updated, no yellow tiles or ancient carpet. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city, a place that's just mine, with no memories of heartbreak or sacrifice or being someone's mother. I'm just Sarah here. I took that river cruise through Germany, spent 2 weeks traveling through Bavaria, visiting Christmas markets, drinking Glühwein, eating schnitzel. I met other travelers, women my age, some widowed, some divorced, some simply exploring the world on their own terms. We exchanged stories, laughed, promised to keep in touch. I actually did keep in touch, made real friendships instead of just collecting acquaintances. I joined Beth's book club. We meet every other Tuesday at a coffee shop downtown. I've read more books in 3 months than I did in 3 years. Last week we read Educated by Tara Westover, a story about a woman escaping her past and building herself from nothing. I cried through the whole discussion. "This is your story too," Beth said. "Not the details, but the essence. You're educating yourself about who Sarah Mitchell is outside of being Michael's mom." She was right. I started volunteering at the children's hospital where I used to work. Not in medical records, in the Family Resource Center, helping parents of sick children navigate the system. I remember how overwhelming it was being a parent, how much I wish someone had helped me. Now I can be that person for others. "You're a natural," the volunteer coordinator told me. "You understand what these families need. What they need is someone who sees them, someone who acknowledges how hard they're working, how much they're sacrificing, how scary everything is. Someone who says, 'You're doing great. Your child is lucky to have you.' The things no one ever said to me. Margaret and I have lunch once a week now. She's teaching me to paint. Watercolors, mostly landscapes. I'm terrible at it, but it doesn't matter. It's not about being good. It's about doing something just for the joy of it. You're learning to play," Margaret observed last week. "You've spent your whole life working. You don't know how to just enjoy things." She's teaching me. I think about Michael sometimes. Wonder if he's happy. Wonder if Jessica treats him well, or if she's moved on to erasing other people from his life. Wonder if he ever thinks about me, about what he lost when he chose her cruelty over my love. But I don't wonder too much anymore. That wound is healing. Slowly, but healing. Linda thinks he'll come back someday, that Jessica will push too far, or he'll realize what he gave up, or something will crack, and he'll remember who raised him. "And when he does," she asks, "what will you say?" I think about that. Really think about it. I'd say I forgive him, I finally answer. But I'm not the same person anymore. I won't be the mother who sacrifices everything and asks nothing in return. I won't be the woman who accepts crumbs and calls it love. If Michael comes back, it will be on different terms. What terms? Mutual respect, honesty, real relationship, not just obligation. And never ever would Jessica be welcome in my life. That boundary is permanent. Linda nods. Good. You deserve that. I do deserve that. It took me 54 years and a stolen ring to learn it, but I do. Last week, I went back to the waterfront where Tom proposed, stood in the same spot, watching the city lights reflect off the Willamette River. It was cold. November again. Almost exactly 36 years since that night. "I'm okay," I told him. Told his memory. Told the universe. "I survived losing you. I survived raising our son alone. I survived being erased by him. And I'm still here. I'm still standing. I'm still Sarah." The river flowed past, indifferent, eternal, but I felt different, lighter, free. I'm not saying I'm completely healed. Some nights I still cry. Some days I still wonder if I failed somehow, if there was something I could have done differently. Some moments I miss the version of Michael who used to call me his superhero, but those moments are getting fewer, the gaps between them longer. I'm building something new now. Not a life centered around being someone's mother. Just a life. My life. With friends and hobbies and travel and purpose. With mornings where I wake up excited about the day instead of dreading it. With evenings where I sit on my balcony with wine and a book and don't think about anyone's needs but my own. Is it selfish? Maybe. Do I care? Not anymore. The woman who raised Michael, who sacrificed everything, who made herself small so he could grow big. She did her job. She did it well. She can rest now. And Sarah Mitchell, just Sarah, not Michael's mom, not Tom's widow, just Sarah. She's finally getting to live. Last night I booked another trip. Norway this time in summer. Midnight sun, fjords, northern lights. 3 weeks of exploring a country I've never seen. Linda asked if I was nervous to travel alone again. No, I said. I've been alone for a long time. I'm just finally enjoying it. The doorbell rings now. I'm expecting a delivery, new hiking boots for Norway. But when I open the door, I find a letter. No return address. Just my name in handwriting I recognize. Michael's handwriting. I stand there holding it, feeling the weight of it. Inside could be anything. An apology, an explanation, another accusation. Part of me wants to open it immediately, Part of me wants to throw it away unread. Instead, I set it on my coffee table. I'll open it later, or tomorrow, or maybe never, because whatever Michael has to say, it doesn't define me anymore. It doesn't control my happiness or my peace or my worth. I'm Sarah Mitchell. I survived losing my husband. I raised a son alone. I worked myself to exhaustion for decades. I faced humiliation and betrayal and cruelty. I fought for what was mine. I protected myself. I rebuilt. And I'm still here, still standing, still learning to live. Still learning that I matter, not because someone else says I do, but because I finally believe it myself. That's not an ending. It's a beginning.